Hello and welcome. My name is Ellen with Ellen Estelle, and today I'm going to be showing you how to sew Mccalls M8036, the Sasha dress. I chose to sew view C that has the full button closure. For the fabric, you'll need either crepe, challis, cotton blends, or stapled knits. The fabric I chose is from Fashion Fabrics Club. You can check it out in my video, Fashion Fabrics Club haul. This dress has pleated sleeves. It also has a pleat here at the bodice. It has no bust darts. It has a waist seam, and I chose to fully line my dress. So I also chose a lightweight white lining from Astoria Fashion Fabrics. So I chose to use buttons. I used these white buttons here that I purchased from Hobby Lobby. The back is pretty simple. It has 2 bust darts here at the back bodice. Other than that, it just has a full A-line skirt. Keep watching to learn more. First, start out by cutting out your pattern pieces. I've chosen to line the entire dress in a lightweight woven lining fabric because my fashion fabric is a little sheer. Because of this, I will not be cutting out the facing pieces. If your fabric is lightweight and prone to stretching and warping, I would suggest cutting out the facing pieces with the inner facing only. That way you can stabilize your fashion fabric at the front and back necklines. For the lining, I'm cutting out everything except for the sleeves and sleeve band. I will use the front and back bodice and skirt pieces the same as I would the fashion fabric. To start sewing, I'm going to attach the front and back skirt pieces together along the side seams on both sides. Be sure to finish your raw edges and press the seams nice and flat. Then I'm going to sew the darts at the bodice back and the pleats at the bodice front shoulders. Press these flat and press the excess fabric towards the center back. With right sides together, attach your bodice front and back pieces together along the shoulder and side seams. Finish the raw edges and press. Repeat these steps for the lining skirt and bodice pieces. Now for the sleeves, you're going to need to sew all the pleats at the top of the sleeve. Let me break this down for you. So here's one of my sleeves. As you can see, I've cut small notches at the top where the pleats are indicated on the pattern. Then I used a fabric marker to mark a dot at the end of each line for each pleat. I drew a line between these dots to indicate that these 2 lines will be matched up. These are indicated with arrows on the pattern piece. So I will match up the 2 notches at the top first and put a pin in the fabric to hold it together. Then I will stick a pin through the fabric at one of the dots. I'm going to check on the other side to make sure that my pin is going through the second dot. If not, I will readjust until the pin is going through both dots. Then pin the fabric into place. So you'll be sewing a straight line from the notches to the dots, stopping and starting precisely between these 2 points. I put my needle down and I start sewing from the notch to the dot. Sew about 3 stitches and then backstitch. And once I reach the dot, I will backstitch again and finish by cutting the thread. That is it. It's as easy as sewing a straight line. Continue this method with all the pleats on the sleeve. The sleeve will end up looking like this with 6 pleats in total. Press all the excess fabric from the pleats towards the center of the sleeve. Follow along as I sew the rest of the pleats on the second sleeve. This method can be applied to the pleat at the bodice front pattern pieces as well. Once your pleated sleeves are done, sew the sleeves with the right sides together at the side seam, finish, and press. Then using a basting stitch or gathering foot, gather the bottom of the sleeves all the way around. It should look like this. Now take your sleeve bands and with right sides together, pin and sew the short ends together. Finish and press. With right sides together, pin your sleeve band to the gathered edge of your sleeve. Match the notches and seam. Sew this seam at 5/8 of an inch and press flat. Then press the unsewn edge of your sleeve band towards the inside at 1/2 an inch. Fold your sleeve band in half with the wrong sides together. Stitch this folded edge down by hand to cover the seam you just sewed, or stitch in the ditch on the outside and catch the folded edge underneath like this. Now take your bodice and skirt fashion fabrics and match them up at the waist seam with the right sides together. Pin them together, matching your seams and notches. Sew this seam at 5/8 of an inch, finish, and press the seam down. Repeat this step for the lining. Now I will show you how to fully enclose your lining to your fashion fabric. With right sides together, pin your lining and fashion fabrics along the outer edges, except for the hem. Sew this seam at 5/8 of an inch, finish the raw edges, and press flat. To achieve a more professional look, understitch the lining all the way around. To do this, sew the seam to the lining fabric only. Now attach your sleeve to your fashion fabric. With right sides together, pin the sleeve into the armhole. Sew this seam at 5/8 of an inch. Do not finish the raw edges yet. Your sleeve should look like this. Now you can either sew your lining in the same manner with wrong sides together, then you'll have a raw edge showing on the inside that you'll need to finish. Or you can follow this trick to keep the seam hidden. Reach through the dress and grab the right side of your lining fabric. Pin it to the wrong side of your sleeve to the same seam you just sewed. Match up the notches and seams and pin into place. sew this seam and finish the raw edge. It should look like this. Now the seam is out of sight. To help the lining lay flat, you can cut small notches into the seam. And for an even flatter seam, you can understitch the lining around the armhole. Almost done. Now we just need to finish the hem. Pin your lining and fashion fabric with right sides together at the hemline. Pin all the way around. You can sew this seam at 5/8 of an inch like I did, or sew more so that the dress will be shorter. When sewing, make sure you leave an opening about 3 inches wide in the center. That way you can pull the dress right side out. Finish the raw edges, but be sure not to close this opening. Now clip the corners of your hem. Through the opening you left at the hemline, pull the dress out so it's right side out again. Use a tool to press the corners nice and flat. Clipping it first ensures that there's no bulky excess fabric. Now hand stitch the opening closed at the hemline and press your hem flat. The finishing touches are the button and buttonholes. I used the markings on the pattern pieces as a guideline for the bodice. However, these markings are for the buttonholes only. The button placement will be determined when you try it on. Since it's a wrap dress, it can cross over as much or as little as you would like. What is important is to add a snap or a hook and eye at the waist seam. This will ensure that the extra fabric on the inside will stay in place. Try on the dress and mark where you want the dress to cross over. Then mark the edge of the fabric on the inside like this. I sewed on a medium-sized snap. The buttons will be trial and error. I tried on my dress to mark the button placement for the bodice and the initial button placement for the skirt closest to the waist seam. Then I sewed this button and I laid the dress flat and marked the next button placement with a fabric pen by pressing through on the next buttonhole. Make sure you're trying on your dress as you're going. You don't want puckering or mismatched button placements. And we're done! Mccalls M8036, the Sasha dress, is a great go-to wrap dress. Perfect for summer. Be sure to like and subscribe. Until next time!